Merry Trekmas, and welcome to day 3. Today I want to talk about the definition of free-to-play, why it doesn't make a lot of sense, and what we might consider transitioning to instead. Of course, this all depends on who you're talking to. For the game companies, it's quite literal. Some of their games are free to play. They don't charge anything in order to play them. But when it comes to the players, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And generally, when you talk to people, there are two models they have in their mind of what free-to-play means. I'm going to go through each one and show you why I think they have problems. The first model I want to talk about is called the Virgin model. And you might be able to figure out where this is going just based on the name. But all these free-to-play models essentially put people into two groups. You either are free-to-play or you're not. The only real difference is how you decide who's free-to-play and who isn't. So everyone starts off as free-to-play. They're all over here. When you download the game and start it for the first time, you haven't spent any money yet because it is a free-to-play game. So you are free-to-play. And at some point, you can transition into being not free-to-play anymore. And that happens when you spend any amount of money. It doesn't matter if it's $1 or $1,000. It doesn't matter if you spend every day or only once ever. It still doesn't matter. At some point, you will spend some money and you will transition from being free-to-play to being not free-to-play. And this barrier right here is one way. You can never go back. Once you've transitioned away from free-to-play, you will never be free-to-play again. Okay, so there are obviously a lot of problems with this model because there are only two choices, and the difference can be very small from one to the other. In fact, the difference can be so great that they have nothing in common whatsoever. A person over here can have a lot more in common with the people over here and vice versa, especially when you consider things like the event campaigns. If you see someone in a promo ship, that doesn't mean that they've spent money. They may have just gotten it through the event campaign. Or if you see someone in one of the anniversary ships, they may have had to pay money for it because they might not have been playing when the event was going on, and then they had to go out and spend money in Mud's Market to get it. So you can't decide who's free to play or not just based on what they have, because there are very few things, basically only the lifetime subscription on PC, for which paying players have exclusive access to. Because even when it comes to currency, free players can take dilithium and trade it on the exchange. Okay, so what's the other model? This is the vegan model. How do you know if someone is vegan? They'll tell you, but that's not the joke we're here to make today. So the vegan model works a little bit something like this. It's similar to the Virgin model, but it is a little bit better and it has a couple more advantages. It's based on 3 criteria. The first one is your intentions. That's sort of like when I said they'll tell you. The second is your behavior. In order to be free to play, you can't spend any money. Even if you say you're free to play, if you go out and spend money, then that's a problem. So you have to choose to be free to play and actually not spend any money, because when it comes to being vegan, for example, you might incidentally have a vegan day where you don't eat any animal products, but if it's on accident, no one's going to call you a vegan for that. It has to be intentional. You have to intentionally not spend money. But the third component here is time, right? If I have a big steak dinner and then the next morning I have a vegan breakfast and I tell everyone, hey, I'm vegan now, they're going to say, whoa, 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 just because you had one vegan meal doesn't make you a vegan. Even if I'm really intending to go vegan and my last meal was vegan, I need more of a time commitment than that. So the idea here is that you can go back and forth. There is a way to go back and forth, but it takes these 3 things. So everyone starts off as free to play. This is our R column over here. And then if you change your intentions or your behavior, then you get put over to the R not side. It is possible to move back, of course, but doing so will require you to change your intentions and your behavior, and you will have had to have done both of those things for a long enough period of time that people will find it acceptable. Now, this does make things a bit more complicated because over here it is a binary system where the definition is absolute. It's easy to tell whether someone is or is not, and there's no arguing about it. Over here, What's an acceptable amount of time for someone to be vegan or free to play or not free to play? Well, it's going to be different for different people. A day, a week, a year, 2 years, 10 years. It's really up to you. It's whatever is socially acceptable in your community. And a good example of this is Trizander, who is a fellow content creator and who I like to do podcasts with. He bought the lifetime subscription. So anyone who subscribes to this model will say that he's definitely not free to play and he will never be free to play again no matter what he does. But he hasn't spent any money on the game in a very long time, many, many years, and he actively engages with the game like other free-to-play players would. So I think most people would consider him to have made a transition from not free-to-play and then back again, so that he is currently free to play right now. So at some point he wasn't. He bought the lifetime subscription. He changed his intentions, changed his behavior, and enough time has gone by that he is now considered free to play again. However, just because this model is a little bit better because it's a little bit more nuanced, it still has the same problems that this one does, which is that whether or not you've spent money or spent money recently doesn't really tell you a lot about what a person has access to and what a person's situation is. And when it comes to being a content creator like I am, for example, if I wanted to make a free-to-play build, well, targeting only people on this side of the line isn't all that useful because they could have paid items just because they didn't actually spend money on it. So how can we come up with a different way of thinking about all this that makes some more sense? What we need to think about instead is resources. The only real difference between a free-to-play player and someone who spends money is what they can get access to in the near future. So for example, if we wanted to talk about a promo ship, that's available to everyone, but a free player is only going to get access to one a year, whereas a whale can just buy as many of them as they want. So instead of looking at whether you've ever spent money or looking at how much money you've spent recently, we're instead going to talk about how much money you put into the game on a regular basis to determine how many resources you have access to in the near future to complete a goal if you wanted to. Now, most of the players in the game are going to be what I would call minnows. These are people who spend very little money, between $0 and $60 per year. They might buy one ship or maybe two or maybe a captain bundle or a small ship bundle when it's on sale if it's a ship that they really, really want, but otherwise they're not really spending. This also includes people who paid to have their EC cap increased or things like that. The next group of people we have are going to call it the fish, just your regular everyday fish. Now, these are people who spend a little bit more money than that. They spend between $60 and $150 a year. These are rough numbers. The actual numbers don't matter. What really matters here are the orders of magnitude. So these are people who might pick up the anniversary bundle or they might pick up a Mud's Market bundle. They're not buying too much more than that. Then the next group we have over here, and the bar represents sort of how many of these people are in the game, not how much they're spending. These are the dolphins. And these group includes me here for most of the time I've been playing the game. These are people who spend from anywhere from $150 to about $3,000 per year. They're buying pretty much the anniversary bundle, any mud bundle they want, any ship bundles that come out. They might buy a promo ship or two or a lockbox ship, but they're not going to be doing it by gambling. We really haven't hit the gamblers yet, so they would probably buy some keys, sell them on the exchange, and then just buy the ship from somebody else. So they're not going to go too crazy, but they're going to buy just about anything that they want once. Then you end up with the whales down here, and here we have the whales. And these are people who are spending anywhere from $3,000 to, I mean, the sky's the limit, but let's say $20,000 a year. This is the group that includes your gamblers, the real heavy gamblers. Now, I'm not talking about people who might open a few lock boxes or might gamble once in a while. I'm talking about gamblers. So when a new lockbox ship comes out, they're not just opening enough to win it once. They're opening enough to win it 2, 3, 4, 5 times. They might sell a couple on the exchange in order to get more keys. They might give a few to their alts or give away one on Discord, and then keep one for themselves. And they keep up this pace all year long. And so when we go back and look at the scaling here, whether or not these bars accurately represent the proportion of the players or whether these dollar amounts are accurate either, the general order of magnitude should be about right. We go from people spending tens of dollars a year to hundreds of dollars a year to thousands of dollars a year to thousands of dollars per month. And that's the real key. So when we're talking about, let's say, a build video, and it has, let's say, I don't know, 7 premium traits, premium starship traits, the thing to keep in mind here is that for someone in this first category, that might take everything they've ever accumulated playing the game since the day they first made their account. For someone like this, it would be a little easier. For someone like this, it would be a little easier. And then for someone like this, if they didn't have these 7 premium traits, they might just go out the next month and buy all of them. So I think this is a much more useful way of grouping people up. And when you do it like this, free-to-play, traditional free-to-play, simply becomes this 0 down here, if that's still the way you want to think about it. But I would prefer to think about it as free-to-play, just being part of the minnow group. Okay, so I hope that made sense to everyone. Maybe you think I'm crazy. And is there a different way to think about free-to-play that I didn't talk about that maybe you thought I should have? Do you agree with my assessment that those free-to-play models are not very useful when we're talking about the game? Do you think that this is a better model? Any feedback you have would be welcome. And if you've enjoyed the content, I would really appreciate if you left a like. And if you want to see more of this kind of content in the future, hit that subscribe button. Have a Merry Trekmas. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.